Hello, everyone. Tony here. Howdy. I had to think through how to do a webinar again. It's been a little while. Can everyone see my screen and hear my voice okay? If so, please let me know. I'd appreciate it. I'll just wait to make sure, and then we'll do an official introduction. Yes, no. Okay, perfect. Thank you all. All right, cool. So let me give you a formal introduction for the sake of the final recording. Actually, let me go full screen first. It's good to see you all, by the way. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving and Black Friday holiday weekend, whatever. We had a good weekend, a good holiday. It was nice to not be teaching live, not because I don't enjoy it, but I worked every day, I think more last week leading up to Thanksgiving, 12, 13 hours a day for new projects and stuff. But all in all, it was good. I made my first vegan meatloaf, and it was actually freaking awesome. It turned out really good. I thought it would last several days. It didn't. It lasted 2. So, oh well. But anyway, here we are on the downhill slide toward December. Hello, everyone. Let me go full screen here. There we are. Now let's try this again. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Expert Media Webinars. This is your host and teacher for tonight, Tony Leidig. And tonight we're going to talk about some of the latest software apps that I've been playing around with for creating or generating art. Now, we're not really going to get into any AI programs tonight, although a lot of software that's coming out these days has an AI assist to it in one way or another. So you may see it pop up here and there, but that's not going to be my primary focus. But some of these things are really super cool, and I think you'll enjoy it. I have several that we're going to look at. So these are not going to be in-depth explorations. I will leave that to you, and maybe revisit some of these programs in more detail later on in trainings or whatever the case may be, future expert media webinars. But just to kind of show you, here's some examples of different types of things that I've been generating and playing with. 1 or 2 of these programs I've mentioned before, but I think most of them are going to be pretty much new to you unless you do a lot of research like I do. So let me so here's my current faves. I'm going to go down through the entire list first, and you can screenshot the list when I'm done if you want, or you can wait for the PDF, which will be up on the site later this week. It's up to you. Depends on how much time you have to kill. So I'm just going to go down through the list first, and then we're going to take a look at every one of these. Like I said, not super in depth, but enough to pique your curiosity. All right. So the first one is Just Sketch Me. And this is a pretty cool program. It's basically meant to help you create digital drawings by giving you basic elements to build a scene that you can then use as a frame of reference to sketch. So don't actually do the sketching. These are 3D models that are very easy to work with and change, and you'll see when we get into it. Next up is Use Cubes. Basically, this one allows you to create building blocks very, very easily. Think like Legos. Okay, very similar to that, except again in 3D form. Pixelate is a really cool program. You know, one of the things that's popular in art these days is pixel-based art, you know, very blocky, like Minecraft-like. And Pixelate gives you the ability to convert any image or whatever, logo, photograph, fill in the blank, into pixels, which you can determine the size of those pixels. So somewhat detailed or not detailed at all. Deep Dream Generator is one that I've talked about before, but they've upgraded quite a bit. They've added some new features. And this is actually an AI-powered program that allows you to do a couple different things. One is they have a form of neural style transfer that's very interesting. It works a little bit different than most of the other programs. Maybe with the exception of Night Cafe, it's somewhat similar to that. But then they also have the Deep Dream Generators. That's basically, for lack of a better way of describing it, it's kind of like if AI was sleeping and had nightmares. This is what they would probably be dreaming about. And that's honestly kind of where the name came from. Beeple Generator is a very curious one. I wasn't going to share it, but I decided to. For those of you who don't know, Beeple is an NFT creator, artist, whatever. He just recently sold a collection of his first 5,000 pieces of art as a bundle NFT at, I think it was Christie's, for like $65 million. And so he has a very interesting style these days. If you are interested in NFTs and stuff like that, or just really bizarre art, you should follow him on Instagram and wherever. I do. And the stuff that he's putting out these days is mostly 3D generated. And he puts out a new image every day. Some of them are controversial. He's not doing them to build a portfolio that people are going to love. He's just doing them based on the mood that he's in for the day. And so a couple programmers got together and built this generator that allows you to create images that are reminiscent of Beeple's style. And yeah, he's still an art a day guy, Chris. Every single day. It's one of the things that I look at every day. And he's still, you know, posting them all as NFTs as well. Now, one thing that I found, and we're going to look at this, but one thing that I found, even though it has the appearance of a random generator, and it's also generating in 3D, which means that you can zoom in or out and change point of view and all of that. It's actually preloaded. It's pre-configured. In other words, chances are likely, as you play around with it, that sooner or later you're going to generate the same images that I generate. And I don't know, like, how many different ones are programmed into the generator. I've seen at least 6 or 8. And they're very interesting, to say the least. And then J Wildfire is another program that I've talked about in the past. I think in Hybrid Illustration Style 7, I think is when I talked about this one. But it is freaking amazing. I've been experimenting with it a lot more. And it basically is a fractal generator on steroids. There's a lot of controls, but even with that, they have random generators that make using it fairly easy and straightforward. Lunar Cell, I wasn't going to share this one at first. And then I, pretty much took the approach, what the hell, why not? So Lunar Cell is one of a series of programs created by Flaming Pear that allows you to generate planets. And some of you may have seen a little planet that I posted on my Facebook timeline the other day. This is what I used to create it. And so we'll demo that. And then Sdfx, which I've talked about before. This is another AI-based program, but it gives you the ability to convert pixel-based images into vectors and then do some really fun things with them. And so it's kind of a tall order to fill. How many do we got here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 programs to demo in an hour. I think we can do it, give or take. And so let's bounce over here. Some of these are web-based and desktop. Some of them are desktop and app-based, so you can get them in a bunch of different forms. And so, yeah, we'll just get into them because some of them I have to open up desktop versions. And that means remembering where they are. So we don't need crypto information. Well, we do, but not tonight. Okay, so Just Sketch Me. You can open the web app. It has a free web app, or you can download a Mac or Windows version. They have a free version that you can experiment with, or you can buy like monthly, quarterly, or yearly and opt in like that. And I would recommend doing that because it gives you access to a lot more characters. Now, one thing that I will say about this up front is that it gives the appearance that it allows you to generate content like this. And that's actually not the case. What it generates are these 3D looking models that you can then use to sketch and colorize on your own, like with a tablet or something like that. So let's find this one first. Somewhere in here. Here it is. All right. Don't show good. So this is the default view, and you'll see the interface is pretty straightforward, but just by clicking and dragging, you'll see that it is 3-dimensional. Okay, and as such, that means, and it has a skeletal bone structure to the characters, which means that I can click on and move every single part. Just like you would in any 3D program, okay? Now, the paid version also comes with a lot of poses. They have a pose library, and there's a lot. Okay, so like, for instance, if we clicked on combat here, choose like fighting stance 3. You can see that it's pretty cool, you know, and again, you can position it however you want. You can zoom in and out just by, I have a magic mouse, but just by sliding your mouse forward or backward, like sliding your finger forward or backward. And you'll see here, right now we are by default on manipulate joints, but you can also click on move. That gives you different ways of moving. We can scale it, and we can turn off the tools just so that we can see this part here. We can also click on the image and get just a clear drawing like that. We can change the color of the image to delineate between. We can duplicate here. We have the undo and redo. We can get rid of it completely, like trash. And we can turn the views on and off. And then also, you'll see that there's a place on ground feature, which comes in handy, especially if you bring in a new object or person. So let's just say, for the sake of discussion, that we want to get rid of that chica. And I'm going to click Add Characters to the Scene. So you can see here we have base characters, we have anime characters, realistic characters, and then others like mermaids and skeletons and stuff like that. Dogs and cats. Oh my. So like if we went with, say, anime female version 1, we can bring her in, and maybe we don't want her in blue. Just go with white for now. And then I'm going to click on Pose, and go with something like that. Maybe this yellow dot here is the sun, which you can see. If we come over here to options, the little gear, you see where we can switch to dark mode if you want. You can change the brightness of the ambient lighting and the brilliance of the spotlight to bring out a lot more contrasty shadows. You can turn the floor grid on and off if you want, and you can change the field of view with the camera. Okay, so a couple different things like that. And this is also available on iOS and app. And on PC and Mac. Obviously, I'm on a Mac. And that's pretty much it for the controls. You can also see down here, there's poses for just the hands. You can add in scenes like background photos, and you can screenshot or export the image. And by exporting, I mean it'll export as a 3D image, which is super cool. And so if you want to add in like a second character, like bring in stylized male, and maybe not that. So one thing that we can also do here with this guy is you can basically turn him backward and forward here, as you can see. We can move him individually, which also, by the way, I probably should mention this. Holding the shift key down allows you to move left and right, whereas not holding the shift key down gives you more of an orbital kind of view. Okay. So then the other thing that we want to do, we'll click place on ground. And what else do we want to do with this dude? This right here is a duplicate feature over here on the left. And then there's also the ability to change positions just for the one guy here. Okay. By double clicking, you can see here that we have the 3D controls again. So I can move him forward, left and right, up and down. So the same kind of axes that you would normally find working with 3D programs. Okay. So, you know, if we wanted to move him over here to the left, you'll notice that he is creating shadows on her. And then let's say that we want to give them like a cauldron. Now you can see where this came in. Let me turn around here. So you can see right now that it's kind of like floating in the air. And so that's where if you hit the place on ground, it puts it on the ground. So that's a good example of where that would come into play. And then, of course, if we want to, we can, you know, move it after the fact. We can scale it up. Actually, that's going to scale everything. Okay. Now, if we switch back to move, we can move that wherever. So one of the benefits, just like any kind of 3D program, the movements and all of that are still the same like you would normally expect if you've done any work with 3D at all. And that's pretty much it. There's a lot more that you can do with it ultimately, but you kind of get the idea here. So, yeah, that's pretty much it on that one. Next up, we got, I'm just going to randomly pick one. Use cubes. So this is, the controls on this one are very, very simple, but it is a 3D space, just like what we saw before. And so basically the way it works is whenever you click on the first block, wherever you drag it out, it will increase. And so if I drag it to the top this way, so you can see I can move around the 3D space here just to get a good look at it. Okay, so let's say I want to go a different direction. So I can click on this part right here, and the direction that the mouse goes is where it will drag it. And so just with this basic building block, no pun intended, you can create some very interesting things. And what's also cool is they have, you can remove a block if you want to. You can paint them with a basic brush. And so like, let's say we wanted to make some of these dark gray. So every one that I click on will change into that color. Okay. And let's say we want these arms here to be like the medium gray. And then the one in the middle, we're going to make blue. And then I can switch back to build. So like I said, very much like Legos. And of course, you know, anytime that you want to get a different point of view, you can just click on the rotate camera feature here. Whoops. And rotate it however you want. So literally you can use this as building blocks to create virtually anything you want. So that's it. Very simple. Of course, they have save, they have reset, and they do have a block preview that's very interesting, that is very much like Legos. Sometimes it takes a little while to render initially, but you can see, like in the ghosted area on the screen, what that would look like. I noticed that the first time around, whenever I was experimenting with this previously, getting the preview to look good takes time. And it's time that we are not going to spend. So we're going to close that. We're going to close this one. Let's do Pixelate next. This is also a free program. Very easy to use. Just click choose a file, and let's find something cool. Take this bear image that I created. And so you can see here we have control over the block size. So the lower the number, the bigger the blocks. The higher number, which it goes up to 25, the more detailed. So you can create some very interesting art with it. You can convert it into grayscale if you want. You can do a custom palette, like you can see here, if you want to get a specific effect. So you can just click through and it'll generate different palettes on the fly. You can control the height and width, and then of course also download the image, which it downloads as a PNG. So you can get some pretty cool effects with it. But not a complex program to work with. Very straightforward, but it performs a specific function, which is pixelizing images, and it does it extremely well. Okay, so that's why I like it. All right. This one, I think I'm going to do off of the download. So let's look at this Beeple generator here. So basically what this does is you have three controls: render Beeple, export Beeple, new Beeple. Export exports a 3D model. Render it creates the final render. I'm going to click new. Oh, cool. We end up with Sonic. Now, the images that it generates are not editable. Okay, just FYI. But that said, what you can do is, just like every other 3D program that we've seen, we can use the mouse to control the output. Actually, that's kind of cool with Bitcoin. And this is one I haven't seen before. So, and same as a lot of other 3D programs, holding the shift key down and dragging recenters the image according to how far you drag it. And then a swipe forward allows you to zoom in. So it is a true 3D space. I mean, it's a low poly 3D space, but still. And so once you get it the way you want it, then you click render, which it's using real-time renderers as it creates your screen. So the render itself happens very quickly because it's not high resolution. And that, I mean, that's it, literally that fast. And then you can click download and it'll download it as a PNG, basically the full screen. So you'll want to choose how much you can zoom in or not. Now, this is a fairly low quality 3D render, but it gives you a base image that you can then use in combination with other photo to art options that are out there. And that's all that I'll say. I'll let you figure out what that means. So all in all, it's pretty cool. And then if you want to see what else you get, you just click new Beeple and it'll give you a different result. Now, from a copyright perspective, the lines are very blurry when it comes to using recognizable characters. Okay. Technically, you should not be using Sonic or anybody else directly because it's a violation of copyright. However, that said, editorial use and some other things, those lines can get very, very blurry and gray. So I'm going to close that now, clear out my memory, and let's look at Sdfx, I think, next. I'm pushing my computer really hard. All right. I've talked about this program before. I really like it. So basically, you pick an image that you want to vectorize. Okay. So like, let's take this planet that I generated the other day. So the very first thing it does as soon as you import it is that it converts it into a vector. And so this is the end result initially. Then you have controls over here on the right. You have the basic controls that affect the main parameters. And then you have post-processing that honestly I never use. And then last but not least, you can apply different textures to your end result. So with the basic controls, which is pretty much all that I use, you can control the level of detail just by moving the slider to the right and hope that the program don't crash, which it just did. So if at first you don't succeed, blah, blah, blah. I have noticed that one occasion, I think this is the second time that I've had the program actually crash on me. Let's make that number 3. Let's try one more time. So I'm not going to touch the detail just now. If I click on ink, it converts it into black and white. And then sketch gives you a different representation of the original. Same with color hatch, which I really like a lot. Let's see if this will let me. Yeah, so it allows you to have more detail in there. Oops. Apparently it doesn't like me doing that. Normally it doesn't crash this much, just FYI. But you can see here, you have a lot of different settings that you can draw from. Now, some of these will allow you to save as a vector and some of them not. So you can see here with this particular version, you only have JPEG, PNG, and then their default parameter with SVG being the vector version. But if I come up here to the vector one, you can see SVG is alive. So that means that you could take this and import it into Illustrator or do whatever you want with it. So not all of them will allow you to export as vectors, but many of them do. And so there's a lot of different controls here that you can experiment with and check out. And they give you vastly different results, as you can see. Some pretty interesting ones. I mean, this kind of looks like a really bad pizza. But you can see, like with this one, for instance, you have access to different color maps. You can control the positioning of the objects that are being introduced, the fill intensity, the scale, all of that kind of stuff, which one thing that I do want to point out, scale, which will always be one of those controls for all of the various choices here, controls output. And you can see where it says size here. By increasing scale, it's basically increasing the output size. Okay, so I wanted to point that out. And then these under here, just other models. The artistic ones are all AI driven. Well, most of the program is, but basically the AI will take and apply brushstrokes or pencil sketches or whatever one at a time to create the final end result. And so it's a pretty just a very diverse program that gives you a lot of options. It's one of the reasons why I like it. And that's all we're going to get into for that tonight. Now, Deep Dreamer, since we have that up, pretty cool option as well. If we click Generate, you'll see that we have three options here: Deep Style, Thin Style, and Deep Dream. And we'll take a look at each one of those. So I'm going to choose a base image. I'm just going to use this bear here. And then choose style. So this is basically for deep style here. This is classic neural style transfer. Okay, so like if I went with, say, this image here, and then choose what settings that I want, which I'm going to just, for the sake of speed, go with a very small resolution setting, and then click Generate. It processes through, and then when it hits 100%, it should reveal the end result. The processing speed I've found can go slower or faster depending on time of day and number of users. There's no way for us to know how many users are with the program, but like I noticed earlier today, I was getting much faster renders. So we're at 49% now. So we're getting there. Now, one thing that you can do with the controls is determine how much the reference image affects the original. The default, I believe, is 50%, and you can increase that or decrease it accordingly, which is why I would recommend going with a lower resolution version first. There is a cost to do this. They have a free account, but you can sign up for monthly, and it basically works the same as a credit system, just like, a lot of AI based programs do. And so then if we click generate here again and go to thin style, very similar. You'll see here under settings, it does basic enhance, and that's it. Versus with the deep style, you have a lot more control. Style weight is what I was talking about, where you can increase how much the style that you choose affects the final image. And you can choose to preserve the colors, which means the image's original colors would shine through instead of being affected by the colors of the style. Okay. And thin style is their newest addition. And they offer you a lot less options. And then Deep Dream basically is, AI on nightmares. So you can choose a base image. We'll just stick with the same one. And here under settings, you basically have resolution, inception depth, which we're going to use deep. AI enhance, I'm just going to go with auto. And neural network layer basically controls number of iterations. If you're familiar with the text to art AI programs, it's the same kind of concept. So 15 is kind of like middle of the road, and that should work fine. So I'm just going to stick with the lower resolution one for sake of speed. And hopefully it won't take too long. I don't think it'll take too long. Actually, while it's doing its thing, well, I can wait. We actually only have two more of these to go through, I think. Let's take a look here. How are we doing? We did these. We're doing this now. We did this one. We did Sdfx. Yeah, Wildfire and Lunar Cell. Okay. There we go. So, so this is the final result. It's pretty whacked out, as you can see, but this is classic Deep Dream. So it adds all these little faces and all kinds of weird shit like this. That's just what it does. So, it has its place for sure from an art perspective, but it's very interesting as far as results. All right, so I'm going to close that, and we'll go to J Wildfire. While that's firing up, I saw Thomas asked earlier, do you just get into these programs and experiment until you learn them? Pretty much, yeah. I mean, to me, that's the best way that I learn. All right. So this is Wildfire. It has a lot of buttons and sliders and stuff, oh my, that sound very technical and mathematical, and for good reason, because it is both of those things. This is a 3D space that we're dealing with, okay? And I'm going to show you the easy version of how to use this program, okay? And then I'll explain a little bit of the technical stuff, but not a lot. So one of the areas that you primarily want to pay attention to is up here where it says Rnd Flame Generator. Okay, these are presets, and there's a lot of them. Okay, as you can see, if I scroll down, there's quite a few. And let me see if I can. And there's actually, by the way, other options here. We're just primarily in the editor. I was just seeing if there's a way that I could blow up the image, but I guess not. Or blow this up. You can do individual renders or movies. We're not going to talk about movies tonight at all. So we're going to come down through here, and like some of you may have seen the flower image that I posted earlier on Facebook. This is from using this preset, Flowers 3D. And then whenever you choose a generator and then come up here and choose random batch, what it'll do is give you a bunch of different options. And if you, and it'll load the very first option. So like, let's say you come down through here and you like this one. So you can just double click that and it will load it. Okay. Now you notice that it's zoomed in a little bit and we can't really see the top or anything. And that's where these controls down here come in. We have zoom, which we can either type in a command or use the slider. And so if I move it to the left, it zooms out. And then we also have center X and center Y. So like center Y allows us to move up and down. And then center X allows us to move left and right. So like, let's say we want to get it in there and it looks like everything is included. So that's good. And then up here on the right, you'll see where we can render at different resolutions and different qualities. I usually go with high quality. And so maybe 1024 by 768. And then we will hit render image or movie. We'll give it a title. Let's call it New Flower for now. Put it on my desktop. Downloads desktop. And hit save. And so then you'll see here where the 0% is. This shows you the render. Once it hits 100%, it'll pop the final image up. Now, obviously, the render time will depend on how much RAM you have in your computer and processor speed and all that. So there's our end result. Kind of cool looking. And if you generate a series, like a batch of these images and you don't see any you like, you can just click it again and it'll generate more, which is kind of cool. And then you can also look at other options that are out here. There's plenty. I like the stunning ones just because they produce some pretty cool end results. That's why they're labeled stunning. Now, all these shapes are created algorithmically using fractal math, basically, is what it comes down to. Let's say we like this one. It looks kind of like a torus. Now, you can get into some of the technicality of it all. Oh, there we are. Yeah, this is making my computer work hard for its money. You can change color. You can move these shapes in different directions. And these are the controls that affect these. Like, for instance, you could double click on this T1 and then rotate it or do whatever you want. My computer is struggling a little bit because I'm doing so much simultaneously. But you get the idea. I'm going to click render if it'll let me here. It'll figure it out. All right. The last program that we're going to look at, which I'm not going to launch just yet, is Lunar Cell. So let's call it Taurus. Since it seemed to catch up, we'll just let this complete first. So there's a lot of controls, as you can see with this, which means you can literally build some of these from scratch, or you can modify them pretty heavily. We're not going to get into all of the details on what all of these controls mean, just because we don't have the time. Maybe for another training or something like that, because you can generate a lot of really badass results using this program. Yeah, so this just gave us the basic appearance here. One other one that I thought I would highlight, we're not going to generate anything out of it, but one that I thought was kind of cool was, let's see, where is it here? Solid Labyrinth, I thought was kind of cool. I like labyrinths, so that's probably why I thought it was so cool. What I find so amazing with programs like this, being a math nerd and all, is that math just creates all of this. And I think that's we're just calling these. I think it's amazing because, you know, we look at the world around us, nature, trees, plants, animals, ourselves, all of that, and we view it all as random. But in reality, all of the shapes and everything are controlled by math. Whether it's the platonic solids or the fractals or Fibonacci sequences or whatever the case may be, math controls it all. And it's really fascinating. So this render is almost done. So quite frankly, with this program, even though it has all the extra controls, you can have a hell of a lot of fun just by going with the different generators and choosing random batch and see what you see. I doubt it, Bunny, to answer your question. Yeah, so here's the end result. And like I mentioned, this is a 3D space, so we can rotate our way around it and choose different points of view and all of those fun kinds of things. So we're going to quit that. And last but not least, fire up Photoshop here. So Lunarcell is a plugin for Photoshop. And we're just going to create a new image. I'm going to put in a new layer, and then we want filter, and then flaming pair, because I already have it installed. They also have another one called Glitterado, which basically allows you to create like star fields and nebulas and stuff like that. But we're going to just look at Lunar Cell tonight. And these are our controls. Now, you have a lot of control over the end result, which is pretty cool. You can also, if you want, they have the dice here. You can click on the dice and it will randomly generate planets, and then you can fine tune them if you want. Like, let's say we like this, but don't need the purple, so we can go with a blue. And then the other level of sea level here, let's make that like a go with a darker color. You can control the land texture, the complexity of your planet, the positioning of the sun. So that's what this is here. Backlighting. So you can move it around and move it in and out. Okay, so like in the center gives you full sun. The further you move it out, it gives you partial. Okay. You can also, it does have a number of texture maps built into it. I believe you can also upload your own. You can choose crater size, crater texture, crater count. So if we want more craters on here, we can just move that slider up. Land texture, maybe we want it more complex. Air depth. So this is basically atmosphere. And then sunset. I don't know what that really does much of anything in this particular. Oh, I see it there. It's adding a yellow tint. That's cool. Cloud coverage. We can add in clouds, the height of those clouds. A lot of control. And then you can see that you can also generate different kinds of maps. I don't have any cities added, so it'll do two-dimensional maps of just specific areas if you want to map them onto 3D objects. So that's what these are for, to map onto 3D objects. Instead of doing it within the program. So like if you wanted to create a texture map for a sphere, to apply to a sphere in 3D Studio Max or something, you can generate the image map, the texture map, the bump map, the whole 9 yards using this program. We could add cities if we want. They don't really show up much except at night. And we can change the color. We can add storms, storm size, all that kind of stuff. And then once we're done playing, we just click OK. And voila. Now, the one thing that I don't like about this program, and to me it's not a super big deal, but still, to make you aware of it, is that it always generates a background, which to me it'd be cool if it did transparency, but it doesn't. So the easiest way around that is what I do is draw in snap guides, which Photoshop makes it very easy to do that. Vertical and horizontal snap guides. And then if you choose the elliptical marquee tool and put it right in the middle and hold the Option key down and the Shift key, it will draw a perfectly round circle from the center. And then if you release it and invert it, which is Command-Shift-I on a Mac, and then choose the mask tool down here. Oh, I did it backwards. So we'll just hit Command-I to invert the mask. So now the planet is just by itself with transparency. So then if I wanted to use the other program that I have installed here, Glitterado, I could create some kind of a star field if I want, or something with random nebulas or whatever. I don't see any of those that I really like. That one's interesting, but I don't like the green. So let's just make our own. That's kind of cool. Texture, don't really need a lot of texture there. Stars, let's make more. Brightness, yes, brighten them up a little bit. Click OK. Voila. So now you can see where this is what Glitterado generated. Let me turn off the guides. And then this is our planet on top of it. So it's pretty cool. And they have a bundle, I think it's called the Space Bundle, where you can get these two, and there's a third solar one. All three of them together for like $59 or something. So it's not super expensive, or they're like $29 a piece. So very inexpensive, but kind of super cool. I mean, how many different planets can you create? So actually, I kind of like this planet. So I'm going to call this Expert Media Webinars Planet. And of course, you can stylize them however you choose. Let's free up some memory and quit Photoshop here as soon as it's done saving. So this is Lunarcell. And you can see here, they actually have a lot of different programs that they offer. The flood ones are pretty cool. Basically gives you the ability to generate water, which is awesome. Superblade Pro I've had for quite a while. It's a surface and texture generator, which can really come in handy. Yeah, so a lot of different ones. And then they have some free stuff also. If you click on purchase, you can see where you can get, like they have one specifically for photography. The Space Bundle, this is the one that I got, which it includes Glitterado, Solar Cell, and Lunar Cell. So there you have it. So these are the URLs again, if you want to screenshot that until I get the PDFs up. Anybody have any other comments or questions? Not really, Bunny, running through photo to art, because, I mean, I guess technically, yes. You know, it's one of those questions that I'm not a big fan of, as far as copyright, because, like I mentioned before on a previous training, that how much do we need to make it different to claim copyright is the wrong question to ask. It's what can I use this tool for to create something fresh and new? You know, how can I mix my own creativity with what's being generated? In other words, what I'm not telling you is to, spend an afternoon in Lunar Cell and bang out 100 different looking planets and do nothing to them, and then pop those up on OpenSea as a collection of NFTs. You won't sell any. It's just that simple. Or maybe if you get lucky, you might. But speaking of that, I've mentioned previously that I am planning an NFT based course before the end of the year, and that is true. You don't have to apologize, Bunny. I wasn't scolding you. I understand where your question came from, because, if it isn't human generated, it's technically not protected by copyright. So I understand that. But, one of my purposes in sharing all of these awesome tools is to generate stuff that serves as a foundation. You can't, Mary, import import faces or anything like that. That's not the purpose of that software. The purpose of the software is to provide a foundation to import into other programs like Procreate or Photoshop or Painter or one of those, and use them as a guide, kind of like a foundational pencil sketch to do final art over top of. Yeah, like Gary said, just trying to keep you out of expensive trouble. Exactly. Yeah, so this next webinar, the first one, we're actually, I say we, meaning Kristen and I, although she probably won't be much involved in the first one here. We're planning 2 or 3 webinars related to NFTs. The first one will be this year. The other 2 will be next year at some point. They're going to be a much deeper dive and more complex, if you will. But the first one, we're focusing on art, creating art for NFTs. And so a lot of the focus is going to be on the types of art that you want to focus on. And some of that can vary based on the marketplace that you want to sell on. So we're going to talk about marketplaces. We're going to talk about the basics that you need to know for creating and selling NFTs, like size, best platform, a glossary of terms, because there's a lot of terms connected to NFTs that you may not know or be familiar with, maybe even the definition of what an NFT is. And so we're going to get into a lot of that. What we're not going to do is get into launch campaigns. I am going to talk some about generative art that gives you the ability to generate like 10,000 different images using software and layers and stuff like that. I think that's module 2. But we're not going to get into a lot of that deep, heavy stuff. And so, yeah, it's still going to be extremely valuable because it's going to set you up to do a deeper dive into how to take NFT creation to the next level. That's the plan. You know, there's a lot of shitty art that's being put up on the various marketplaces and people trying to sell it, and it's just crap. And like 95% of it's crap. And then there's also the folks that are like violating trademarks and copyrights left and right. And so we're going to talk about all of that. I'm going to point all of that out to you so you know what to look for and what to do and what not to do. So that's the plan for the next one. It's going to start next Thursday. I don't even have the sales page up yet. The sales page will be ready and the promo will be ready for it this Thursday. So I'll be pushing it for a week. Mary, NFT stands for non-fungible token. The very, very short version is that it's a way to assign uniqueness, I guess, to a digital asset, whether it's a video, an image, music, whatever, that says that I own this specific work of art. Okay. Now, people could go on to like OpenSea, which is one of the probably the biggest marketplace, and you can zoom in on the art that's there. You can even download it. But just because you have the ability to download it doesn't mean that you own it. Right, non-fungible token, NFT. So, so that's the long and the short of it, is that it gives you a way to sell digital art. Yeah, Bunny. Kristen and I talked long and hard about what to charge for this course because of the value of the information that we're going to be sharing. And it's going to be 4 modules. Okay, so basically the entire month of December, we're going to be going through it. And I decided that, you know, normally a course like this, I would charge a pretty significant amount just because of the value that it brings to the table and it's new cutting edge technology, blah, blah, blah. But what I decided to do was not follow that model at all. And so I'm just going to charge $47 for it, which I don't know if I've ever sold a 4-module course at that price, but I don't care. So I want to keep it lower so as many people as want to can get in on it. Initially, we were at $197. And then I decided to just drop it to $47, call it a day. I will tell you, though, that you will want to get in on it before we start teaching it. Because once session done is taught, the price is going up significantly. So you want to get in on it while I'm promoting it. Otherwise, you will pay the $197. It's just that simple. Yeah, you're right, Chris. Well, you're right if you're posting on OpenSea using ETH. The gas prices are high, the gas fees, but I'm going to show you a lot of the platforms that you can post to where there's very, very low or zero gas fees. Because, I mean, who the hell wants to spend $200 or whatever just to post an image that may or may not sell? That gets really expensive. So anyway, we'll be talking about all of that. And I will show you what I'm doing from an art perspective because I'm going in multiple directions with art, as you might imagine. I'm doing some 3D stuff. I'm doing AI stuff. I mean, I even bought the copyrights to a couple art collections that an artist friend of mine did. I purchased the rights, the copyrights and everything. And so I'm turning those into NFTs, which is why I bought them. In some cases at a significant cost. So I'd like to see a return on my investment. But anyway, I'll be sharing all of that in the course. You'll get to see what those images are and all of that. So it's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to teaching it. I actually have the entire course already mapped out. So it's one of the things I worked on last week and over the weekend. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, so look for that email on Thursday. That's when it should be coming out. And also in the Facebook group and Expert Media community. Exactly, Liz. Anybody have any other comments or questions before we close tonight? Just FYI, I will have 2 more courses coming out this month to kind of round out the year. I'm not going to tell you what those are yet. Oh, sure, Marjorie. Easily. Yep. And there's several options out there for having fabric printed. Spoonflower is one that comes to mind. They're probably the oldest, where you can print your own custom fabric. I've used them, and then what's the other one that I used? It's been a while since I've had fabric done, but there's been a couple of them that I've used. But Spoonflower is what comes to mind. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me here tonight. I really appreciate it. We will be taking the year out, or the rest of the year and into next year, still doing expert media webinars. Those aren't going away. And as I mentioned, the other course is going to be happening on Thursdays. I think the final 2 courses that I'll be offering this year are not going to be taught live. Doesn't mean that they're any less valuable. There's only so many days, and I don't want to teach 5 days a week. So it's Christmas, right? Time to celebrate. Go shopping for gifts. Buy more rocks, as if I need more. So anyway, thank you all for joining me here tonight. I really appreciate your feedback and encouragement. It means a lot to me, more than you know. And I will see you next Tuesday. Not sure what we'll talk about next week on Expert Media Webinar, and then on Thursday for those of you who jump in on the NFT art training. So good night, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will talk again soon.